You're all set. Go ahead.
Thank you very, very much. Town councilors and ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our November 5th, 2020 Town Council meeting. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast live on Channel 18 in accordance with MGL Chapter 30A, Section 20. I must inquire whether anyone is taping this meeting, and if so, to please make their presence known. Thank you. Before we do the roll call, Madam Clerk, thank you and congratulations on a job well done. We were well served by our town clerk, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have a comment?
No.
No, just a thank you.
Okay. If you would do the roll call, please. Thank you.
Councilors, Bogan.
Present.
Clark.
Present.
Pelham.
Here.
Dagwan. Rapp Grissetti.
Present.
Hebert.
Present.
Levesque.
Here.
Neary.
Here.
Schnepp.
Here.
Shaughnessy.
Here.
Starr.
Here.
Steinhilber.
Here.
We have 11.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilors, if I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very, very much. We could have a moment of silence. There's a lot on everyone's mind. So please, just have a moment of silence, please. We're certainly thankful for our democracy, and I think it's appropriate to say God bless America. Thank you. We'll now open for public comment, if we could, please. Do we have anyone in queue for public comment? Sarah?
We do. It'll just be a second for the first person to join us.
Thank you so much.
Mr. President, we have Janet Davis from Centerville on the phone for public comment.
Okay,
Mrs. Davis, you can go now.
Okay, thank you. President Hebert and Town Council members, thank you for the opportunity to address you tonight. Centerville concerned citizens emailed town leaders yesterday a list of measures the town can take to protect its residents from the harmful impacts of radio frequency, microwave radiation, telecom industry forcing into our neighborhoods. One example of a municipality pushing back with the town is Shelbourne, Mass. Officials there adopted bylaws to include a 1,500-foot setback of small cell installs for residences and a 2,000-foot setback from schools. Also on our email yesterday included groundbreaking news released yesterday by the state of New Hampshire, where its mission to study the environmental and health effects of evolving 5G technology revealed great evidence of harm and failure of industry and government agencies to protect the public. They were especially concerned with industry forcing 4 and 5G small cell antennas into our neighborhoods at close range. The mission included 5 legislators who also are engineering and medical professionals, independent EMS scientists, 2 industry representatives, and representatives from the Attorney General's Office, the Department of Health and Human Services, and the Department of Business and Economic Affairs. The Commission interviewed experts over the past year, and their final report contains recommendations for the following actions: address federal protection, educate the public on risk management, engage the medical community, install safe hardwired technology and monitor and map radiation exposures and more. The report is now with the New Hampshire governor and legislature to act upon. The danger from wireless technology is clear. The science shows undeniable risk to human health. We realize as our town representatives do not take the responsibility of protecting your residents in the town of Barnstable lightly. We urge you to adopt measures that restrict the deployment of 4 and 5G small cells in our neighborhoods to the fullest extent possible under the law. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Davis. Sarah?
Next via Zoom, we have Anna and Barbara Lewis. Anna and Barbara, you may now unmute.
We can't hear Anna.
It looks like she's still muted.
Yeah, we're not hearing Anna at all.
I've asked her to unmute, and it looks like she's calling from a phone. Barbara, are you available to speak?
Sure. I really don't need a lot of time. I'm calling and I'm speaking because I'm concerned about what is trying to control, in my opinion, my property rights in the town of Barnstable. I live there. I'm in Osterville, and sometimes I need financial help and need to be able to and want to continue to be able to rent out my house, and don't want to be forced into a zoning issue that I didn't know about beforehand, because this is a new idea. And I just want to be able to use the property the way I see fit. I'm a good neighbor. I take care of my property. The income tax or the tax that's set upon me, if I do rent it, goes to the town. They benefit from it, the shopping, the restaurants. And that's really what I want to just be able to say.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Lewis. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Anna.
Hi, Anna.
Hi. I agree with Barbara. I'm a property owner in Centerville, and we bought the house about 4 years ago, and we've been able to rent it during the summers. But we'd like to retire there at some point, but we're still back here at home taking care of a 94-year-old parent that we are the prime caretakers of. So, you know, the rentals help, you know, with the taxes and the maintenance of the property. So we would like to keep our right to rent also. And we do use Michelle Sylvia, who is a very excellent realtor, by the way, and she vets the people very well, and we're very happy with her. So that's my public comment.
Thank you very much, Anna.
Thank you.
Did Barbara Lewis already speak?
I did.
Okay, thank you.
We do ask folks who have called in and spoken or used the online, after you've spoken, if you could close your out so that you can just listen on the television.
All right, next we have Dave Schmidt. Dave, it's time for public comment. You can unmute yourself.
Thank you so much. Can you all hear and see me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So I've sent this mostly to all of you via the town website, but I'd just like to share a few thoughts, and I know I'm limited to 3 minutes. My wife Jen and I are writing as homeowners whose property is in a place that some are calling to ban short-term rentals. We rent our house at times as a vacation rental. We prefer to be in it ourselves, but aren't of the means and the job situation right now to be up there full time, which we wish we could. We've owned on the Cape for nearly 8 years. I myself consider myself a Cape Codder in every respect. I grew up in a military family, and although we rarely lived on Cape Cod, we returned to Cape Cod every year, often multiple times. My family has owned full-time in the Cape since 1962, when my grandmother, who perhaps some of you knew, Marion Patterson, moved to the Cape, and I suspect I've probably visited my grandmother 100 times on the Cape before she passed away about 15 years ago. We have also held family vacations, reunions there, and made countless precious memories there too. When my wife and I became of the means that we could afford a beautiful a home in beautiful, peaceful Osterville 9 years ago, we jumped at the chance. We knew that we could not afford 2 mortgages without renting the home out at times, although it has always been our intent to spend much more time than the 2 to 6 weeks we typically get on the Cape in any typical calendar year. We own our home with the specific intent of retiring to Cape Cod when we have the nest egg to do so, ideally within the next 15 years. I have carefully and thoroughly reviewed the town's research about this issue posted on your website, and I would humbly say that the research does not at all support the idea of restricting or eliminating short-term rentals. The resolution 2020-192 appears to be a solution in search of a problem. Why not simply enforce the rules and accountability instead of punishing those who are legally renting to solid tenants who add value to our community and to the broader Cape Cod area? My wife Jen and I are responsible owners and believe that we should be able to continue to rent. We have not had any complaints nor problems with our neighbors, tenants, or any others, and have not been given any reason why our property is a problem in search of this solution. I urge all of you to vote yes on item 2020-193 this evening. That will ensure we continue to have the right to rent our home as a vacation rental, always keeping the right to mutual respect of our neighbors, community, and Cape Cod foremost in our minds and priorities. Many thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you.
Next is Michael Canestraro. Michael, go ahead.
Well, that was very well said, Mr. Schmidt. Good evening, everybody, and I wanted to thank you for the council for having this meeting. Like David just talked about, my family as well has very deep roots here on the Cape that go back to 1980, not quite the 60s. But I've been coming here for my entire life, 40 years now. My parents own a home on Eel River Road. And my brother owns a home on Eel River Road, and I own a home on Parker Road, and my sister lives year-round also in Osterville. And so we take this issue very, very seriously. And for us, I rent out my property. I have enjoyed spending as much time here as I can. But like Mr. Schmidt, it would not be feasible for me to do that without the ability to have some short-term rentals during the peak season, for me to be able to pay my mortgage, and for me to be able to continue to enjoy this town, and to have others to be able to come here on a short-term basis and support the local businesses here in town during the summer season and enjoy all that Osterville has to offer, whether it's biking or sailing or golfing and shopping. And the restaurants that we have here in town. So I also have not had a single complaint. I have owned here in Osterville since 2015, and I have had short-term rentals in here as well as long-term rentals throughout the off-season on occasion, and have had very much success with being able to do that. And so I also echo Dave's sentiments on voting yes on this resolution 2020-193. To continue to support the ability for responsible landlords such as Dave and I to be able to have this ability to offset our costs so we can continue to enjoy Osterville for many, many generations and years to come. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael.
Next is Wendy Northcross. Wendy, go ahead.
She's muted.
You're muted, Wendy.
Thank you. I should know this by now. I stand before you tonight to support the actions of the Town Council relative to appropriately zoning short-term rentals and appropriately regulating short-term rentals in the town of Barnstable. Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors has submitted a statement of support that essentially says that we have reviewed your ordinance code changes as proposed and then amended on September 3rd. We think that it's important that you know that the Cape Cod Chamber has worked to level the playing field among the various types of lodging establishments in the Cape 15 towns, and that includes the traditional lodging and it includes short-term rentals. What we were seeking was business parity relative to how an overnight stay is taxed and regulated, and that we think regulations are important for the short-term rental community in order to protect consumer health and safety, as well as the welfare of the town. So Barnstable's local option occupancy tax of 6% is now applied to overnight short-term rental transactions of less than 31 days. And that's been generating important non-resident tax revenue for the town. And also because the Water Protection Trust Fund fee of 2.75% is also applied to overnight transactions of short-term rentals, just as it is to traditional lodging. These funds are now going into a stabilization fund for the county of Barnstable that only our towns can access in order to build important wastewater infrastructure. So we feel it's really important to regulate and not eliminate short-term rentals in the town of Barnstable. You know, we know an awful lot about the travel and tourism industry on Cape Cod, and with the advent of the sharing economy, we've seen a significant shift in consumer preference toward vacation rental homes for longer stays. It's an average of 5 nights in a short-term rental, while the overnight pattern for our traditional lodging of hotels, motels, and B&Bs has shrunk to 1.1 nights. On Cape Cod in calendar year 2018, direct tourism visitation to the county generated over $1.3 billion in direct spending and created and supported over 10,000 jobs that would not exist if not for our travel industry. It's generating significant taxes for the state and for our communities. It's also important to note that it's important to ask people to stay overnight. An average day trip guest spends about $200 per travel party, and an overnight guest will spend about $800 per day for a travel party. So while standard transient lodging facilities like a hotel, motel, or B&B require about 17 or more permits and licenses to operate, we don't propose an onerous overregulation to keep homeowners from using their asset to help offset the home ownership costs. But we feel that your proposed General Ordinance 2020-192 appears to cover the bases for consumer safety, accountability, and oversight. Further, we think that the limitation of the inventory of rental units appears to be sufficient to accommodate an industry within the town borders, maintaining a competitive tourism product that will continue to lure valuable customers to your town and generate meaningful resources for the town's wastewater needs, to keep people employed, to support our small businesses. And one final note, we do think that regarding the minimum stay requirement, that you might tweak that a bit, perhaps to require that one stay per transaction every 3 days, maybe one transaction every 3 days would be allowed. This may give some flexibility to weekend rentals and some relief to turnover considerations. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have offline, but we have some other data that we could share with you. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Wendy. Thank you.
Next, we have Nancy Sabin. Nancy, you can unmute. It's your turn for public comment.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to address my comments to the town council. I thank you for opening up the forum for the public comment. I will tell you that my husband and I 5 years ago purchased a home in Oyster Hills in Osterville, and it's been a lifelong dream. Frankly, this was made financially possible by renting out our home during the summer season. So the decision to rent is not taken lightly, frankly, as we take pride in our home and we look forward to retiring here in the future. To make the rentals possible, we go through a highly reputable local realtor, whereby we and they scrutinize every tenant that we allow to use our home. In the last 4 years, we've had a recurrent tenant that's rented for an extended stay each summer season. So while we've certainly seen the articles and the discussions in the forums, we can appreciate the desire to minimize any disruption of the quality of life for the people of Barnstable. We feel that the following should be thoughtfully considered: that the personal and community benefit of summer rentals, as well as not lumping all rental categories together. As was just recently stated by the prior speaker, the benefits of rental from a local business revenue are obviously quite high, as they make, most of the local businesses make their income off of the summer season, highly dependent on vacationers. So home rentals generate a steady stream of business for the restaurant, shops, parks, providers, services, etc. It was noted in one article that 1.2 billion is spent directly on Cape Cod during the summer tourism season. And I would say that the impact of restricting this flow of revenue potential should not be underestimated. COVID-19 pandemic demonstrates the tenuous nature of local businesses. Frankly, my husband and I feel that they need more support, not further restriction. In addition to that, obviously the local, the lodging tax revenue, given the recent legislation, these rental properties such as ours generate rental tax for Barnstable and the Cape. And on a personal note, frankly, it also creates future residents. Not only do the rentals generate revenue today, but they introduce future residents to the Cape. And I can tell you my family is an example of that. I grew up coming to the Cape 1 week every summer. And as a result of the wonderful memories we've had, 4 of my family members have now houses across the Cape. I know there's a lot of debate and dialogue in terms of the types of rentals. We carefully consider who rents our home. We've lovingly invested in this house, ensuring ongoing maintenance and care to keep it a shining spot in the community. We don't take lightly having people in our space, nor in our community. We would hazard that many of our neighbors, frankly, have enjoyed the company of our guests, if they've even noticed them. So, and my personal point of view is that I anticipate that a home filled with joy and happiness is better than a vacant one. So, I welcome further discourse, but we strongly advocate for the maintenance of rental rights within our community. And that's on behalf of myself and my husband, Douglas Monroe.
Thank you, Ms. Saban. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Denise Toland. Unmute yourself.
Hello, hi. My husband, Thomas, and myself own a home in Osterville for about 7 years now. We do not live there full time, not yet, or so. So, offset costs, we have rented in the summer, June and July. And I have used Robert Paul Realtors. Michelle Sylvia has been our rental agent. She's been wonderful. She always vets all families who have come, and we have never had a problem. Yeah, I just think, with the town, I think the summer rentals, that people that come, the traffic that comes, helps the stores. I have a child who lives there. That's my reasoning for coming there, and she and her husband own 2 of the stores in town. So it's important to me that we support the town in that respect. So I just want to say I support summer rentals.
Thank you, Ms. Toland. Thank you very much.
Next is Steve Madden. Steve, now's your chance to speak. You're to unmute.
Thank you. So there's a lot of things I find offensive about trying to limit the summer rental. I'll start off with the definition of what's considered a resident and non-resident. To my mother, our family's been on Cape Cod since the 1600s, and people in our family have been owned property since that time and continuously. And so for someone to all of a sudden be able to buy a house and all of a sudden consider themselves to be a full-time resident because they live there 12 months a year, as opposed to someone like me who's there a few months a year, is offensive to me, given the fact that we have had real estate for literally centuries. I would tell you that the current property that we rent out on Cape Cod, we rent out for a sizable amount of money. It's over $150,000 a year that comes in from the rental. 100% of that money and an additional money on top of that goes back into the community, either in the form of taxes or spending money on improvements to the house, using vendors, cleaning people, landscapers, construction people. All of that money goes into the town. If the house was not rented, it would be a fraction of that money. And it's literally more than all the rental income goes back into the community. I would also tell you that as a person who does not spend 12 months a year on the Cape in Barnstable, we're already penalized by or paying a rate that is an effective rate higher for property tax than people who live there 12 months a year. I will also tell you that we pay a personal property tax on possessions within the house that full-time residents do. So right now, I already feel like that non-residents are being discriminated against. The second thing I'll talk to you about is the benefit to the town of Barnstable. The money that comes in from the rental income is taxed. And I know that through our real estate broker that there are somewhere in the area of around $900,000 a year of tax coming into the town of Barnstable from rental income. This is something that goes to people who are less fortunate, who are not landlords, and benefits everyone at large in the town of Barnstable. I will also tell you that the people who rent our house are not people who do not have, who have significant funds, who benefit all of the local shops, stores, what have you. They hire cleaning ladies, they go to restaurants, they buy products in stores. All of that helps out people who are less fortunate and allows them to keep their stores open. I will tell you that I look at this and I hear people complaining about the fact that they may have some tenants who are disturbing. I'll tell you that in the years that we've been renting our house, we have not had one complaint from any neighbor, and I know all of our neighbors, we've owned this current house for over 30 years. No one has ever complained. In fact, they like the fact that we're continuing to plow money back into the structure to make it better and improve the neighborhood. I will also tell you that I asked the broker that rents our property whether she's ever had a complaint out of the approximate 50 houses a year she rents. There's never been a police calling to any person in the town of Osterville for any house that she's rented. The other thing I'd like to say is that I find that, to discriminate against people who rent their houses is a discrimination against everybody who needs to rent a house on Cape. Renting a hotel is not the same, renting a room in a hotel is not the same as renting a house and gathering a family, multi-generations in one structure. And not everyone can afford to buy a house and spend what we all find an invaluable experience on Cape Cod. What I would suggest is that if you are letting people not rent houses with their families, it is pure discrimination against people who are less fortunate, can't buy them. And I find that offensive. So those are my opinions. I think that is great for the community to get the income. I think it's wonderful to expose more people to Cape Cod, which we all love, and that this should be soundly rejected. If people have a problem where they have tenants in the structures near their houses that are offending them, they should call the local police and have it dealt with on an individual basis. Should the tenants be able to, I'm sure that's what the tenants would do when their neighbors who are property owners are offensive. They should do the same. There's maybe a few bad apples, and those should be dealt with individually. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Madden.
Next, we have Megan Cleary. Megan, has your chance to speak at public comment.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here tonight. I'm here. We didn't run the video. I'm here with my husband, Michael. We're new residents in Barnstable Village, and this is our first council meeting. So we appreciate the opportunity to be here. We won't take up too much time, but we wanted to speak briefly on the issue of short-term rentals. I've been coming to Barnstable for my whole life. I first came to Centerville as a kid, as a renter. I'd come for a month each summer. And it was really the memories of those times that led my husband and I to purchase a home in Barnstable Village over this past summer. And we're so looking forward to the opportunity to build a home here in Barnstable and give our children the opportunity that we had to build memories here, especially in the summer. But, you know, the reality is that we're not able to afford this home without rental income. And we've taken care to hire a reputable property manager to help us with the process of renting our new home. And that, you know, our new home is very special to us, so it's not a responsibility that we take casually. We carefully scrutinize every prospective renter, and we rely on our manager's professional experience to help us with that. And we think that, you know, our interests align with the town's. We want respectful renters who will help support the town and help us take care of our home. And of course, we understand a lot of the concerns that have been raised about renters, but as a former renter myself, I feel confident that it's possible to participate in the rental market in a way that's respectful. And I believe that short-term rentals are a way to help build a community of future residents, people like us who use rental income as a way to achieve their dream of having a home in this beautiful community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, both of Mr. and Mrs. Clary. Thank you very much.
Next up for public comment is Pamela Randon. Pamela, you may unmute and begin your public comment.
Oh, hello, and thank you for having us on. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Thank you. I also have been coming to the Cape my entire life, and frankly, if I could be here every 365 days a year, I would be. But any moment I can, I come up. My family's had a house for over 30 years, and actually, when it came to the point where one parent had died, we had one parent who was fortunately still with us, had a severe stroke. It enabled us to rent the house out when she was put into care, to keep the house within the family. So there's considerations like that which people have. It's not like so easy to always sustain real estate when it's a multi-generational family and you want to keep your foothold in the place that you love the most. I myself, my family, we rented for years once I had my children, actually, probably I think 6 years. And I met my closest friends from my rental. They happened to be across the street and they're still my closest friends. We bought a house here 8 years ago. I think the problem is, what I'm hearing is, it's not so much that people rent their homes generally. There is a problem with the easy rentals via the Airbnbs, et cetera. And that's where the problem lies. So there seems to me there needs to be more addressing of the short-term rentals where people come in for a weekend and they don't have any consideration perhaps. It would also be nice to know how many problems there are via percentage of how many places are rented, just to get to the bottom and the crux of the problem. No one would want that situation. It's even hard when you have homeowners that have, you know, loud situations and parties. But I think it's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater to say, okay, forget the rentals because of some outliers. We need to focus more on the outliers and how to curb that. We always go through a licensed real estate broker from my family home, and we have never, ever had a problem. People are vetted, they're insured. We have deposits, and there has never been an issue. So I think in terms of there has to be scrutiny from the actual renter point of view, and there has to be certain safeguards, and that would be a better way of tackling this problem that we're coming across and why we're even here talking tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Random. Thank you so much.
Next, we have Ling. Ling, you may unmute and provide public comment.
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity to comment. We have a home since 2000 on Cape Cod. Our children were grown up on the Cape. They develop a great affinity towards the Cape, and we loved it. Our relative come to join us to enjoy that as well. I think about 10 years ago, the kids started growing up. They want to be able to travel, so we had no choice but to rent our homes because the taxes, as I think a number of these ladies and gentlemen have said, has been quite substantial for our home. You know, each year it's over $72,000 just tax alone, plus all the other expenses. So we can only keep the home with all the help from the rental income coming in. I think as Steve Madden earlier said, he contributes 150,000 to the town, to local business, to the taxes, and to the environment, to the restaurants, all that. And our, couple $100,000 rental income pretty much goes into back to the community. Just garbage pickup alone is about $8,000 during the summer season. Again, we use that through a really reputable realtor, Michelle Sylvia, and all the families who rent our home. A lot of them are repeat renters, and they bring in multi-generational families to enjoy 1 or 2 weeks, through the places, and develop great fond memories. As some of the ladies said earlier, they become potential resident buyers for Cape Cod, and it become a really overall good experience for the local community. So I'm definitely for, allowing us continue to rent the place. I think this is, if we pass some kind of restriction against rental, this is not just passed against people who can rent now, it's literally passed against all of our homeowners on Cape Cod, and our potential to be able to keep the property for the children who have such fond memories for Cape Cod and love the community, love the place, want to do a lot to help the community go. And as one of the ladies said earlier, during this year's COVID time, when the community does not have a strong affinity, they literally crumble, they lose business, they shut down, stores. But because we love Cape Cod so much, and we love to keep the place going, and we all pony in, not selling, not fire selling, and that helps everybody's property value, it helps everybody's jobs. So I would, really strongly continue encourage allowing us to rent. Again, all the rental family has been extremely well investigated, scrutinized before they allow to come to rent our properties, because we really put a lot of care to our properties as well. So I just, I really want to support this. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lynn. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next, we have Tina Carey. Tina, you can unmute and begin your public comment.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Again, Tina, thank you.
Okay, I wanted to just inform the taxpayers about the notice on the town website about the 2021 reevaluations. And people can click on that and look up their property, because commercial property, they're raising the assessments by 20%. And they're also raising personal property by 22%. And they're raising residential property evaluations by 4%. And I've looked up probably 100 properties. And the company that you hired, Vision Governmental Solutions, is so out of whack with their evaluations. It's so ridiculous, I can't even tell you. My assessment on my business that never even opened this year went up 141,000, and my 2 abutting neighbors, their values went down. So figure this craziness out. That you only have until next Friday to call this company to dispute your evaluation of your property. And I just think it's terrible that what the commercial industry is suffering, that you're going to raise our taxes and our evaluations by 20% in a year like 2021. I mean, does anybody know what the tax rate is even going to be starting in January? Because I mean, you're just going to put people in bankruptcy here. The other thing is, I have tried calling offices in town hall. Is anybody working at town hall? I have left 5 messages for the town attorneys to call me back. Nobody returns a call. I called the assessor's office. No one's in the office except the secretaries. No one ever returns a call. Everybody's making over 100,000 a year, and everybody's been on vacation for 8 months. So what is going on at town hall? Because we're flipping the bill here. It's ridiculous. And if you're going to do anything, before you start raising our valuations and our property taxes, you ought to start cutting people's salaries, because everybody in town hall is overpaid, except for you poor counselors. You're practically working for nothing. So I wish somebody would address these issues, and especially when you're talking about people trying to make money renting out their home. They have to rent out their homes in order to pay their property taxes. You can't afford to live here anymore. Well, anyway, I'll be back on when you have public comment about the rental ordinance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Carey, but the public comment is closed on the item 192. It's still open on item 1, on the zoning item 193, but it is closed on the 192.
Okay, well then I'd like to say that you need to remove that 1,500 limit, because I've told you before, once somebody gets a license, they're never going to give it up if there's a cap on it. And everybody's lives change from year to year. My 2 short-term rentals were rented long-term this summer because we weren't allowed to rent short-term. So I'm never going to give up my short-term rental license. And that's what you're creating. You're creating another mooring list. So that 1,500 cap needs to go away. I would encourage you not to vote for it.
Okay, well, thank you for that comment. Thank you for all your comments. I appreciate you calling in, Ms. Carey.
Okay, thank you.
Next for public comment is Scott Staniar. Sorry, Scott. Now's your chance to speak. Go ahead. You need to unmute, Scott. Sorry.
Oh, one second. Terrific. Can you guys hear me okay?
Thanks, Scott. Thank you.
Very much. Thank you, Paul, for letting me speak. I'll be very brief, just 45 seconds. Our family have been homeowners in Osterville for almost 40 years. And the 2 concerns I have with the proposed amendments limiting short-term rentals. And first of all, I'll preface it by saying that as someone who's lived in Osterville in the summer for a long time, we, like all Ostervillians, love our peace and quiet and the sanctity of our homes and not having crazy parties with short-term renters. So I really do get all of that. So my 2 comments or concerns are, one, I think for a lot of us, particularly that have aging parents, rental income is a really important offset for the really high cost of utilities and taxes. Without that rental income, there's really no way that we could afford to continue to have our home in the Osterville area. And obviously, a 31-day rental is something that's viable in July and August, but obviously not in the shoulder months. And so to be able to have renters that come in for 2 weeks at a time is very important for us to be able to offset our costs on the property. So that's number one. I think my second concern is our local retailers. And I have no statistical evidence to back this up, but I do know that when we have renters that come in for a 2-week period, for example, the first thing they ask is, where do we go eat? And where do we go shop? And where do we go for general, items that we need? And most of these renters that we have in the summers, you guys know, they don't like to cook at home. They want to go out and frequent the local restaurants and retailers. And I think that business is something that would be seriously affected if we limited the amount of renters that are available in Osterville. Because for those of us that are homeowners, we're down there maybe 1 or 2 weeks a year in the summertime. We're not there all the time. And I can know from our New York City renters that we had this past summer, they were, and others, that they were frequent, probably at least 4 times a week, going to a 5 days restaurant or a Crisp or some of the local retailers. And I'm concerned about the effect on those local retailers. So thank you very much for your time. And those are the 2 points I wanted to make.
Scott, thank you for calling in. We appreciate it. Thank you.
You bet. Have a good night.
Thanks.
Up next, we have Ed Speak. Ed, you can unmute yourself.
How about that?
You're all set. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate your extending this courtesy. I, along with my sons, have a short-term rental in Barnstable. And I've followed this matter. I've been to meetings, public meetings, forums with regard to this. And this may be peculiar to me, but I'm still puzzled as to what problem we're trying to solve. Now, if there are health code violations, I understand trash being strewn about a yard. We have a Department of Public Health that can address that. If there are noise violations, raucous activity, we have a police department that's perfectly capable of addressing those matters. And that's true if it's a year-round rental or a short-term rental. And now, my property happens to be in a area that's heavily oriented towards the summer near a Barnstable village. And people, as the prior caller has stated, they tend to come there for a week or a couple weeks, and then they probably use it to pay the rent or have their cousin from New Hampshire down for a week or two. And as much as I hear about concerns of San Diego, Newport, corporate interest, I don't see any of that going on. And I hear of the damage and mayhem that may occur to the town, but I haven't seen any of that going on. I do know that the town authorities have been responsive in cases where people get out of hand. A very prominent family from Hyannisport, you may recollect, had a couple of its members arrested for noise complaints and just a very localized disturbance a couple of years ago. So it strikes me that the town authorities respond when necessary. Now, I know one topic tonight has to do with hiring an enforcement officer. I understand if you have regulations, they only have merit if they're enforced. But if those regulations substantially exist at the moment, as they do, with respect to sewage, septic, noise, disturbances, those have to be reported eventually to the agency that has authority over them, whether it's the police department, the Board of Health, the DPW, if they were to clog a drain. So I remain puzzled as to what problem is associated with short-term rentals that isn't associated with anything else. And quite frankly, while I expect the town will take some action, I remain puzzled and will continue to do so, and that we're dealing with flies, and we're using a mammoth weight to address it. So it strikes me that the town is amply equipped, if there are code violations of any type of description, to address them. I recall being in meetings when advocates said, we don't want to have to call the police.
Sorry, Mr. Teague, that's your 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Next is Christian Teague. Christian, go ahead.
Hi, good evening. How about that handsome devil that was just up there? Listen, thanks to everyone for spending another evening talking about things that don't exist. Another few weeks have gone by, no stories of any sort of short-term rental problems, no parties, no boy racers in hot hatchbacks, no gun violence, no prostitution, no dog attacks, no underage drinking, nothing at all, at least none reported that I could see. And I keep a pretty close eye on the blotter to see if such things will have happened, because I figure if they do, they'll come up tonight. It strikes me as it seems like once again, this is Bigfoot that we're trying to make legal. I think the number that was released at the last meeting was $1 million quarterly. That's what the town got in from short-term rentals. We all saw that article a couple of weeks ago where all the town, where some of the town finances came in, and some individuals involved with other towns were pleasantly surprised. I think it was Harwich that got $410,000 plug into their general fund due to the 14.5% that goes to the town. Additionally, near constant talk of nitrification in the town plans, which I downloaded the other day, all funded by an additional 3% on short-term renters. I don't see where the problem is. This is a boon for the town in these tough times, and they're gonna get tougher before they get easier. We're pumping up taxes on homeowners Just got that letter today, and we're effectively considering shooting ourselves in the foot financially by talking about not voting tonight. Let's get down to the fundamentals. The reason why we're here is because an individual decided to sue the town in an a malicious attempt to get rid of short-term rentals through the judiciary branch. Let's not be pushed around by individuals who think they are more privileged than the generality of the individuals in this town who know that this is a vacation town and that's why we're all here, because it's nice. Parking, trash, underage drinking, none of these things have been seen here. The area where my short-term rental is that I own with my father and my brother, approximately 15% of the homes in that immediate area are short-term rentals. If you do not pass this tonight, you are risking hollowing out that neighborhood and plenty others like it. Let's get this passed tonight. We can deal with the nitty-gritty of the regulations later on. Okay, but let's not take away our privilege of choice and let other individuals with malicious intent kill this operation.
Thank you, Mr.
That is all I have for public comment tonight. Thank you.
Okay. And do you know if there's anybody else on telephone at the office?
There's no one on the phone at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Appreciate it. All right. Council's response to public comment, please. I just want to let Mrs. Davis know that the town is going to have more to say about the 5G. I do not want to speak for the town manager or the legal department, but they are looking at what other areas they can pursue, and they have a positive plan to do so. So I just want to let you know about that, Davis. Okay. No one else? Comments? Okay. Thank you very much. We're going to close.
Council Levesque.
Oh, Council Levesque, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think at least one person should speak, and at least thank everybody who took the time to contribute to public comment. And also, too, I wanted to thank Wendy Northcross for coming on tonight and giving that data as far as what it means to our economy. Obviously, their support and looking over that data. They do so much to support the businesses of Cape Cod, and especially in this COVID crisis, even more important that they're on the case over there and working hard to support again and get resources and data for our businesses here in Cape Cod. And thanks to everybody else who spoke in regards to that, Mr. Teague, and I think he was new today. So thanks for coming on, and that's it. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Councilor. Thank you. Councilor Clark, please. Councilor Clark.
Thank you very much, Council President Hebert. I just would like to respond to the email message that we received from Sandy Evans, when she talked about are we trying to protect the health, safety, and welfare of guests and the general public and maintain quality of life? We're working on it. It depends on the perspective. I understand that. And she also mentioned about bringing in a new counselor to be seated from precinct 4, and I hope that we will respect that request. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councilor Clark. Councilor Shaughnessy, please.
Thank you, President Hebert. I just wanted to say to Janet Davis and to the Centerville concerned citizens, thank you again, and I definitely share your concerns with regard to the 5G technology. I want to say a majority of you tonight were second homeowners. Many of you spoke of, coming to the Cape since you were children. I want all of you to know, as a native Cape Codder, it warmed my heart to hear your stories about decades upon decades of fond memories of coming to the Cape. Because I want you to know, as a child, every year I look forward to the return of my, quote, summer friends, because Cape Cod kids have what we call summer friends. I apologize for being the child that rode my bike daily to your grandparents, inquiring if you were here yet. But it really did warm my heart to hear those comments because I have grown up with that rich history. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. I believe Councilor Snap, you wanted to make comment?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. And again, thanks to all who came out tonight. This has been a long conversation, but I really appreciated some new voices and new stories that kind of bring a different perspective to the short-term rental conversation. I also wanted to address Ms. Carey's concern, not particularly about the tax assessments, but her concerns that our town staff don't seem to be at their positions and are not working on behalf of the citizens of the town of Barnstable. I have to say she's gravely mistaken, and I know that during this very tough time of COVID, our staff has been working harder than ever to make sure that the services that we expect are delivered, and finding innovative ways to keep the lights on and all the activities going. So I just wanted to counter Ms. Carey's comments tonight and thank all of the employees of the town of Barnstable for the hard work they've been doing this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Stepp. I do see the town manager, Els, with the permission of the council. If the town manager would like to respond to Ms. Carey's comments on staff.
Well, yes, thank you, Councilor Schnapp. You couldn't have said it better. Beginning last March 10th, we went into a state of emergency, and your municipal workforce went into double time. Not only have we not closed town hall, and not only have we remained open throughout the pandemic, but we have also gone into an emergency response and planning mode, and we have not missed a beat. And I'll be more than happy to provide any statistics on the level of permitting and licensing and completion of projects and obtaining grants and continuing to lead Massachusetts in keeping our state open and functioning and safe. And we will continue to do so. Now, if somebody doesn't return your phone call and you get frustrated with a department, please call the town manager's office and leave the details with me, and I'll make sure that somebody calls you back. But I can guarantee you, we are all working. Thank you.
Thank you, town manager Els, for those comments. Appreciate it. Thank you. Councilor Bogan, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. The town manager stole my thunder a little bit because I was going to echo the sentiments expressed by Councilor Schnapp. The town's business has continued largely unabated during this unprecedented time. We are all trying to stay safe, and yet the town has done a magnificent job of continuing to do business, notwithstanding that objective. So I commend you and your staff, Town Manager Els. I also appreciate the different voices that we have heard tonight sharing those perspectives. They are equally as valuable as those that have come before them, and I will speak to that later. I will address specifically young Mr. Teague's comments with regard to a privileged individual with malicious intent. Let me respectfully tell you, sir, you're wrong. There are a number of people who have come forward and expressed similar concerns, notwithstanding the fact that they did not file a lawsuit. And I don't perceive those people as having been privileged, nor do I perceive them as having malicious intent. And so I respectfully disagree and take offense at that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Bogan. Any other councilors for comment? Madam Clerk, you most probably have captured that Councilor Dagwan has arrived. He came at the beginning of the public comment. Thank you very much. All right. Seeing no others, I'm going to close public comment. I have asked the town manager, in light of the fact that we are going to be talking about the SDRs, and there could be a presumption of a beginning of a late evening, and we want to allow as many people in the audience that's watching us to be able to follow along. So the town manager will save his communication till the end of the meeting. It'll be the last item on the meeting, time permitting, and with your approval. Thank you. Thank you to the town manager for that kindness. I would ask that the Madam Vice President please act on the minutes.
Yes, Mr. President, I make a motion to vote on a special meeting minutes of October 29th, 2020 is presented.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any comments, corrections? Councilor Bogan, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I did have nominal changes. They were not substantive. I communicated those to the town clerk and Ms. Lovell, and they've told me that they have been corrected.
Thank you very much, Councilor Bogan, for that. Okay, unless there's any comments, I'm going to ask the town clerk, please, the roll call to approve the minutes of our previous meeting.
Councilors Bogan,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Cullum, Dagwan,
Yes.
Rap Cressetti,
Yes.
Hebert,
Yes.
Levesque,
Yes.
Neary,
Yes.
Schnapp,
Yes.
Shaughnessy,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Steinhilber.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Councilors, we're going to look at communications from elected officials, boards, committees, staff commissions, reports, correspondence, and or announcements. Councilors? Thank you very much. Seeing none, we're going to close communication. Thank you very much. We will now proceed with the orders of the day. We're going to begin with old business. And before we do that, I would, since we are going to take up item number 2020-192, and I wish to speak there, I will officially turn through the screen to Madam Vice President. I would ask you to accept the gavel. There we go. Thank you very much. Madam Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is old business. Councilor Schnapp, if you'd read that into the record, please.
Yes, Madam Vice President, this is an item of old business may be acted upon by a roll call majority. Item 2020-192, order amending the general ordinances by adding Chapter 190 short-term rental properties and amending Chapter 170 rental properties.
Is there a second?
Second.
So, wanted to make sure that everybody has the ordinance as amended both on September 3rd and October 1st. Everybody has the red line version, if you will, and know that we have had some amendments to the original ordinance, and I'd like to know what the pleasure of the council is at this time. Look, Councilor Bogan.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. As I have indicated many times during this process, I have tried to not only listen to the comments of the members of the public that have come before us, but those also of my fellow councilors. I like to think that I have moderated my position on the various issues fairly substantially, I think, over the course of the last few months. But the one thing that has become abundantly clear is that there are myriad interests that need to be addressed by way of this general ordinance. And I very much feel that that is not happening right now. And the process that we're currently engaged in is very much like whack-a-mole. We throw something out to address something and another issue pops up somewhere else. So tonight, what we've heard are comments, as I said, I appreciated very much from a different constituency. And that is either legacy homeowners, well, I'll call them, they have family that owned a home, or people that have vacationed here and don't have a primary residence here, but do want to be able to rent. Let me be clear, as I think I said during the most recent meeting where we discussed this issue, the issue is not the ability to rent their property. The issue is the ability to engage in short-term rent. And what I have said is I'd like to try to find a way to address the various interests. And I don't know that the current proposal before us would address the interests of those we heard tonight while balancing the interests of those we've heard before. So if the Vice President will entertain, I would respectfully move that we table this indefinitely so that we can return it either to the short-term or the Zoning and Regulatory Subcommittee or establish a task force who can look at these various issues. Because, for example, what I heard from others is A, we want to protect our neighborhoods. B, we want to protect the ability of people who own their homes to be able to rent their homes periodically. And C, keep out non-owner occupied short-term rentals. But I don't know that if we did that, we necessarily address the interests of the people we heard from tonight. And so with that, I would make the motion that we continue this without.
Councilor Bogan, if I could, Councilor Bogan, you've spoken on the item, and I'm going to hold your hold off on accepting your motion to table the item until after someone speaks.
Thank you.
Anyone else wants to?
Madam Vice President, I couldn't hear the instructions to Councilor Bogan.
It's not formed to speak to an item and introduce a motion at the time of speaking to an item. So I had him wait on the item to table it until someone else speaks, and then I'll recognize Councilor Bogan. Councilor Cullum.
So the task force of which you speak, would that contain those councilors that have concerns about the ordinance and haven't spoken up thus far with regard to zoning and other things? Because that's the concern that I have, that if this goes back to the same STR committee of which I'm a part, and we believe that we have done good work, which I believe we have, what's going to change? So I would suggest that if this is a position that's accepted by the council, that those councilors, and I can name them, that have one sat on the committee and has concerns about it, that they be an active part of the task force so that we can move something forward that we can all agree on. That is the problem.
Councilor Bogan?
Yeah, I do not have any preconceived notions with respect to the makeup of the task force. I'm open to that issue. At the end of the day, all I'm trying to do is get to the best end.
Councilor Schnapp.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. I believe that we have gone through a rigorous process through a committee, through staff meetings, through public hearings, through town council meetings. And we have, I think, arrived at a very reasonable regulatory framework and a recommendation to amend our zoning to be explicit about the use of short-term rentals in our community. And I would feel that we are not fulfilling our obligations as elected officials if we pass this along. I think we have enough information before us to vote. Or if we don't feel like that's the course we want to take, we can withdraw both of these ordinances and allow our existing Board of Health regulations to govern short-term rentals now until such time that we think we need to revisit this.
Anyone else? Council President, Mr. Hebert, would you like to be recognized? You are muted.
I had to do that to stop myself from talking too much and jumping in. Thank you. So So there are several things that people are starting to look at, and every one of us suffer from a certain amount of fatigue about the whole issue. And each one of us have contributed in no small way to getting us to the point that we are. So for the first time recently, I heard the rationale being of withdrawing, not withdrawing the items, but tabling the item to a point in the future, not necessarily a point certain, but tabling it into the future. And going with the Board of Health, taking responsibility, which they have in the past, for monitoring all the rentals as well as the STRs within the community. So that was one. It was not my thought. I thought it best that it was presented by a counselor, which a counselor did respectfully, and this was a suggestion that a counselor made, and they can identify themselves if they wish, but the bottom line was, very creatively also said that they wanted to see some new faces and not send it back. And this is no way a reflection of the work of the zoning and regulatory committee. They just want, if you're going to form another task force or committee, that would be done by people who have been expressing themselves and but not overly in favor of the amendment. I'm sorry, of the ordinance as initially presented. That would be again could be created with the will of the council. Who would be on that in terms of councilors, and most probably would have representative from the public also participate, and possibly even staff sitting in that committee, just to take another look at it. That's one. The other one is that we move forward tonight with adding amendments and starting to talk about those and finish up amendments that any that have not been voted upon or finally decided on. We could do that. We could then set a time to say enough is enough. I would respectfully, listening to some of the people in the town, since we're so close to sitting the new councilor, newly elected in precinct 4, if we would wait at least until then to actually take a vote on whatever we come up with tonight. We feel we're very close to that. That would, I think, be a wise decision. So that's where we're at. If people want to just continue with this, we're doing some more amendments. I go along with that. I would also, if people, one more person says we should consider forming another committee to work on this, I'm open to that also, personally. Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak or have any amendment to offer? I see Councilor Nober.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam Vice President. I just wanted to point out that postponing indefinitely would be considered an unfavorable action that would trigger the 2-year rule, and we would not be able to bring this back for 2 years unless there is a final report, a final favorable report from the planning board. Withdrawing the item would not be considered an unfavorable action, but postponing indefinitely would be, and I just wanted folks to know that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Attorney Nober is referring to 193, not 192.
Thank you, Madam.
Yes, that's correct.
What's the pleasure? Shaughnessy, please.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. I wanted to address Councilor Bogan's comment with regard to long-term rentals versus short-term rentals, and saying that, people still have that option. The truth about long-term versus short-term is that inherently in long-term, there can be a lot more risk. And the reason so many people are, short-term rentals present a more favorable is that, first of all, the level of commitment. Whether or not you wind up with a bad long-term tenant, or whether or not you decide circumstances change 6 months into a 1-year tenancy, you don't have that flexibility with a long-term tenant. With a short-term tenant, but flexibility not only in that, but also flexibility, to the homeowners who have a second home here waiting to retire, they come as their schedules allow. And most of them are moving towards being here as often as they can. With a short-term renters, you have the flexibility of at the last minute blocking out a week when your schedule opens up. And then lastly, obviously at the state level, this is a very tenant-friendly state. So with a long-term tenant, there's a greater risk for the property owner. I also feel like, just with regard to this entire discussion, and I'm not saying any of these things didn't happen. I have short-term rental in my area that has been problematic. But I can honestly say, I feel like, at least 99% of our short-term renters are doing it well. They are good owners, but I feel as though truly a few bad apples, out there who don't care and don't feel as protective of their home of others are really ruining it for everyone else. And I would say, really, in regard to the ordinance, the only issues I would have is that the 3-night minimum on non-owner occupied, as we've heard so many people comment, is a problem for a weekend, because most people coming for a weekend don't come Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They come for the 2 nights only, and they need to be back to work on Monday. So to me, that's the only issue with the 3 nights, is that in off seasons and other times of year, or even for people who just can't afford to come for 3 nights, it gets rid of, weekend, people being able to come for just a weekend. And then my only other issue really would be just worries about the cap. And I say that because, at least in my mind as attorney, it's always easier to go back and put it in than it is to start more restrictive and then have to change it to include more. And I think we received an email from Ryan Castle, who's the president of the Cape and Islands Realtors, and surrounding the cap, and other people, including Tina Carey, have raised issues of, how are you going to keep track of that? Who's going to get priority? Are we going to wind up with a mooring list in 5 years? So that worries me, because I feel like there are issues with that, questions that we haven't answered as to how that's going to work. Thank you.
So it sounds like Councilor Shaughnessy might have an issue with item H on limits of number of registrations townwide, something to consider. Someone else have anything to add? Councilor President.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. So when every week I learn something more, and every time I talk to councilors, I learn more, and every time I listen to the public, I learn more, and every time I look at an email, I'm not talking about just yes and no, I'm looking at councilors and the public. So we all got the same emails and the same notices, and we read the same newspapers. What really bothers me is, again, it's the total enforcement and control. The people who lived in Centerville, at the street right now, but anyways, the one with the swimming pool, and that it was way beyond the capacity as far as we know. We don't know how many people were in the house, but finally the police were called, and they went, and there was a swimming pool involved, but the folks that were there were too drunk to drive their cars. They were too drunk to go home, and some of them lived, I guess, at some distance. So I got very, very concerned. If we just look at the disruption of the peace, what about our liability? So the police said they were too drunk to go, so they told them to stay put. that doesn't mean that they did stay put. After the police left, any of them could have gotten in their cars and driven away. And then what would we say? Well, they were at a party that we found out about, that the police went to, and is there liability on our part, especially if people get killed and injured because of drinking too much? And now at that point, we had no ordinance, I think, that would kind of spell out some relief for that, relief for the community, relief for the public, relief for that neighborhood. So we have to have an ordinance. I don't think that we can just say, we have to have some kind of ordinance that police can use when they report to these places. But it was a dangerous situation. People who drink, it's maybe 1 in a million that this would happen, but most probably that house was right over capacity that night. So if it was sleeping 10 or 12, there's most probably 20 or more people that slept at that house that night. There was a fire. I don't know if the fire department would know to look in the basement or the attic or where to find all the people. And we also don't know, how to kind of respond to this situation that we didn't cause. It's different if they're at a hotel and they get a party and they get drunk, they're going to sleep appropriately in their rooms. So those are the kind of things that I don't feel that we have gotten a handle around that I still want to address. Thank you.
Councilor Lebec.
With all due respect, President Hebert, I think that we could all come up with some doomsday scenario that would be the most unpleasant experience. And that, obviously what you described is a worst case scenario, but that could happen at somebody's house at a graduation party. I have teenagers and I hear of parties from them, thank God they're not there, all the time where there's underage drinking and kids have to sleep over. Maybe parents are present. Sometimes some parents aren't present. Sometimes the parents are present and police show up, they take care of the situation, they take away in police custody who they need to take care of, and then the liability falls on the homeowner. And that's how it goes. Obviously, thank God we haven't had reports of any fires or anything like that, but I think that certain things are already taken care of by the police department, just because there's laws that enforce public drunkenness or disorderly conduct or things of that nature, and we have a great police department that addresses those things and takes care of the things. That's why we don't hear about them in the newspaper all too often. Thank you.
Councilor Bogan.
Two quick points. I don't like disagreeing with the council president, but going back and relative to the question that Councilor Cullum raised, I frankly do see some value if there were members of the zoning and regulatory subcommittee who were interested in participating in that discussion going forward. I could also understand if they said, I'm fed up, we did our part, have somebody else deal with it. But I do think there's some benefit from that could be derived from the institutional knowledge that they possess. Number one. Number two, with regard to the town attorney's observation, my suggestion that this go over indefinitely was simply to avoid imposing undue pressure on people who might be willing to engage in that discussion. I'm also sensitive to the need to bring this matter to closure, both because everybody wants to bring it to closure, but also so that we can provide some certainty to people who are engaged in short-term rental activity. So, I'm certainly willing to put a date on it, if that be, the end of March, and end of January. I can amend the motion when it's appropriate to do that, but that was my only thinking with regard to the indefinite. Thank you.
Councilor Dagwan.
At our last meeting, I felt that we had a very divided council on this subject, and that troubled me. Secondly, I don't rent my home. I don't have a short-term rental, and I don't know a whole lot about it. I've learned a lot through this process, and I've learned from both sides of the issue. And I think at this stage to bring some of those strong proponents of both sides of the issue to come together and let's design something that that's that takes into account those stronger issues that's troubling me. I can't speak for other councilors, but that's what's troubling me because I'm hearing things from both sides, and I like the suggestion of possibly a task force or a group that would include my suggestion. I don't know who came up with the idea, but the makeup of the group, if that something the council would be interested in, would to allow that participation from our citizens. And we, as I said, we've had some strong proponents from both sides. I think to include them, along with some of you who have worked so diligently on this subject, I think it could be beneficial, and it would allow us to come to the best decision, the best solution. The fact that we've spent this much time on it says that it's a serious matter. It's not an easy matter. And so to feel as though we need to rush it through tonight and make a decision, I'm where I was at the last meeting. But I really appreciate the suggestion that was brought up tonight. As I said, I don't know who, whether the council president came up with this idea, but I like the idea. I mean, I don't want to prolong it. As many people spoke tonight, they have short-term rentals, and they want to move forward with those. But we also know that there's possibly people out there who have them who they aren't registered. I think since we're visiting in this at this time, let's give it the time it needs. Let's bring all of these ideas together. Let's bring the public along with some of our committee members, planning board members, and look at both of these items and move it forward. I don't want to see it delayed, and we're working on it next summer, or we're back at this in August and September. I think a few months would be sufficient. I think the hard part would be just getting putting the group together that we would be in support of, and perhaps legal as well at the table. We could knock this thing out and move it on. But that's my feeling on this at this time.
Councilor Steinhilber.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. I just want to point out again, and this is with all due respect, this issue has been talked about for 18 months. 18 months. Numerous public comments, public hearings, emails, phone calls, presentations, lawyers, civic association groups, planning board staff, planning board, town council, committee work. The list goes on and on. I'm sure I forgot a dozen more groups that worked on this. This didn't just drop out of the sky on us. 18 months. We've been talking about this. We spent 2 hours talking about sewers on $1 billion project. So the whole calendar year, we spent 2 hours talking about sewers. We spent 18 months talking about some weekend rent. And again, we're gonna have tough issues as us as a council. I'm not gonna single people out. I'm gonna say as a collective, we are failing people to do our business. We are not getting our business done. Call it a failure of leadership, call it a failure of doing your homework, whatever. But when you have an issue, you know what the item is, you have an issue with it, come prepared with amendments. This is how we discuss an issue and come to a working consensus, and then we vote on it. Maybe it passes, maybe it doesn't. But again, we are here at a meeting again, talking about that we need to keep talking about it. We had one meeting, we spent 2.5 hours talking about how we didn't have time to talk about it. I think we went to 1 in the morning that day. So if you have an issue with it, come with your amendments. Numerous meetings, no amendment. I'm sorry, it's just embarrassing. So I'm still waiting to hear amendments, but we're talking about starting all over again. So that's my 2 cents. We're, I think next month we'll be in month 19.
Councilor Schnapp.
I'd like to offer an amendment to the general ordinance that we are now discussing. I would like to move that item number 2020-192 be amended by striking subparagraph 1 of section 190-12 and renumbering subparagraphs 2, 3, 4, 5 as the new paragraphs 1, 2, 3, and 4. To tell you what that accomplishes, we have under 190-12 ineligible units. I would be removing the paragraph that says that dwellings designated as below market rate or income restricted that are subject to affordability covenants or that are otherwise subject to housing or rental assistance under local, state, or federal law, that would be struck from this, and then the rest of the paragraph would remain. So I move that as an amendment.
There, second from Councilor Cullen. Discussion on that amendment.
Excuse me, what page are you on?
Do a rationale for why you.
Yes, I wanted to, this addresses a concern that was raised by Ms. Carey several meetings ago, that we wanted to ensure that there was no discrimination of those people who have units, that they would be able to use theirs as a rental. Again, because in number 3, what is currently number 3, if there's any local, state, or federal law that will prohibits the leasing or subleasing, we have that kind of covered if there are any covenants or deed restrictions in those affordable units. So that is the rationale for striking that number.
Councilor Clark?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam Vice President Garcetti. Garcetti. What page are we on? I'm sorry.
We're page 5.
Of the amendment.
Thank you very much.
And it's 190-12, ineligible unit.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Any discussion further? Just Council President Hebert on the amendment, please.
May I ask, this is listed, what page number is it listed on in our agenda, please?
I don't know. I'm just looking at the amended version.
Okay.
Page 5 on the amendment.
I believe it's 6 of 26.
Page
6. 5
at the
of the
bottom.
amendment.
And Councilor Schnapp, could you just, for one more time, just repeat what you're looking to strike? I'd appreciate that.
Okay, so in that, under section 190-112, ineligible units, we would be striking the first item, which is dwellings designated as below market rate or income restricted that are subject to affordability covenants or that are otherwise subject to housing or rental assistance under local, state, or federal law. So by striking that, we would then renumber the remaining ones as 1, 2, 3, and 4.
And as you can see, it's been put up on the screen for everybody to. Everybody.
I see. Yep.
maybe you can remove that, Sarah, so I can see people. Thank you.
Madam Vice President,
Yes, Councilor Steinhardt.
I thought it might make sense to add maybe some clarification from legal, because I think the point of that was to not have folks who may have qualified for a housing subsidy or some type of a situation where they have an affordable unit, and then they're using that basically as a profit center to rent out that unit. And also you can get into income caps and things like that as if you would qualify for that unit. But legal, I understand what Councilor Schnepp is getting at, that the first part would cover that aspect, but do you feel that there's enough detail in that?
I think that it makes sense to remove that first paragraph. If someone is subject to deed restriction, they should comply with that deed restriction. I don't think it needs to be in our ordinance. And it does create a possibility by putting it in the ordinance that we would restrict them even further than what their own deed restriction would say. There might be a way for them to get permission to actually rent their unit under their existing restrictions. And so I think the concern is whether our language would create a disparate impact on people who would otherwise be protected under the Fair Housing Act. So I think it makes sense to remove that provision, and folks should still obviously be expected to comply with whatever restrictions apply to their property.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure the intent still, remained and it was on solid ground. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, could we have a motion to vote on the amendment, please? On section 190-12.
I think Councilor Schepp made the motion, I believe. And is there a second?
Second.
There was a second.
Okay, can we take a vote on it? Madam Clerk.
Councilors Clark,
Yes.
Cullum,
Yes.
Dagwan,
Yes.
Rapgrassetti,
Yes.
Hebert, Levesque,
Yes.
Neary,
Yes.
Schnapp,
Yes.
Shaughnessy,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Steinhilber,
Yes.
Bogan.
No.
11
other-
yes, if it passes.
Thank you. The other amendment, Councilor Bogan.
Well, first of all, Madam Vice President, I would renew my motion. Is now the appropriate time to move that we table discussion until I would recommend the second meeting during the month of January.
There's a second.
I'll second it for discussion.
So, what we discuss? Councilor Bogan.
I am sensitive to Councilor Steinhilber's observation that the matter has been under consideration by the council for 18 months. The fact is, the actual proposal was only first seen by anyone other than the subcommittee on February 6th. It then came before the council, I think, initially around the end of April, and wasn't subject to public comment on the proposal until midsummer. So I respectfully disagree that the public has had an opportunity to comment and review the actual proposal for 18 months. Look, what I'm looking to do here, as I said, is to protect our neighborhoods, recognize the interests of people who do live in single-family zones, to occasionally rent their home out if they want to, because there have been people that believe, and I will quote Mr. Swartz, the vice president of the planning board, who said, he voted against it and said, I want what I want, when he was looking at the zoning ordinance. And that's the sentiment that is held by a lot of our residents. And so all I'm trying to do is to balance the people who thought, I bought in a single family zone, I didn't know the house next to me was going to be commercialized. And so number two, I'm trying to acknowledge that, okay, I get that, but there are still some people who want to be able to rent their home occasionally. And I know that we had a provision that said if you want to engage in short-term rentals, you can do it for periods of less than 5 or 7 days if you are there in the home. The third thing that I said I was looking to do was to prevent non-owner occupied rentals. But what we now see is that while there is another category that's kind of in between, they're the legacy family homes or people that grew up here, they're not investors, but they do have a vested interest in the community. And I don't think that what we are currently doing is going to adequately protect all three of those interests. And that's why I said, let's take a little more time and have some more discussion to see if we can do that. So that's the rationale.
Any other discussion on the motion?
To clarify, that's a motion to postpone until January 21st, 2021.
Did I see Council President want to discuss?
We're just discussing this motion, right? Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, Councilor Cullum.
So the subcommittee, I believe, adequately addressed the legacy homeowners that you're referring to by means of the general ordinance. Because we know there are a few bad actors, and we have a mechanism by which now we can make sure that neighborhoods are safe. My concern is that when you say you want to keep neighborhoods safe, you're not talking about my neighborhood. You're talking about Barnstable, Osterville, and parts of Center. That's my. I'm not in favor of delaying this any longer. I agree 100% with Councilor Steinhilber that we put a ton of time into this. We have addressed these legacy homeowners and I believe every other type of short-term rental that we possibly could in the lengthy meetings, 88 hours that we have put in. We had endless public comment in those meetings and at our town council meetings, and we've done the work. So there's no way I'm going to support the motion. I think we should vote on it and move on to sewers. I agree 100% with Councilor Steinhilber that there are huge things looming that we haven't even begun to deal with. And it's becoming a crisis for me that we're not dealing with $1 billion sewer project.
Council President.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. So, first of all, I don't have any stake in the game whether we extend it or not, but we're not done putting the amendments on, and I think that this was just an effort and a suggestion that was brought on by Councilor Cullum to form such a task force. And you have a perfect right to decide now that that's not what you want to do. It's not a problem. But to get to the crux of the matter, it did not come to this council until June. Did not come to this council for us to start to debate and discuss this till June. There was no wastewater meeting that we missed. Everything that the town manager and the DPW and Mr. Mill had to talk to us about the comprehensive wastewater management that they needed to bring in a timely manner that came in front of the council, it was addressed. So I appreciate everyone's frustration. But to say that we have extended this for 18 months, it's been an 18-month process. It started with the past president. We changed from the asset people, went into the zoning and regulatory, and we switched committees if people didn't remember that. And criticism would be accepted by me if we had missed one beat on comprehensive wastewater management, and we did not. So don't go beating ourselves up for something that we had no control of. We had a special meeting, and that was the first time that they had the material to present to us. I'm not downplaying the fact that the comprehensive wastewater management is a top priority for us. But to pretend that we somehow delayed it because of this STR, I don't think is accurate. My personal opinion. And I do want to also respond to the realization that what's missing here, and all due respect to Councilor Levesque, when there's a party at your house and the parent is there and they're full-time residents, it's very—
Point of order, Madam Vice President. Are we discussing the motion?
Yeah, let's stick to the motion to continue the item to the 21st of January, 2020. Counselor Neary.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Actually, my comments I've been waving at you for a while.
Oh, I'm
Sorry that I have been picked up, but regarding additional amendments. So let's
The
finish this
mask.
first, and then we'll move on.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
You're masked. So you don't want to talk about, so any further discussion on the?
I'd like to vote on the motion.
So Madam Clerk, we'll take a vote on the motion to continue the item to January 21st of 2021.
Counselors. Cullum.
No.
Gagwan.
Yes.
Rap Grissetti.
Yes.
Hebert. Levesque.
No.
Neary.
No.
Schnapp.
No.
Shaughnessy.
Yes.
Starr.
No.
Steinhilber.
No.
Bogan.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
6 yes. 6 no. A tie.
So let's continue on with any other amendments. Counselor Neary.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Boy, this has been going on for a bit, hasn't it?
18 months.
We spent quite a lot of time going over amendments, and my opinion is that there were still a couple what I consider major items that had not been discussed and had not been kind of solidified. What I've heard from not only the councils but the public is that length of stay is still an issue. Length of stay for primarily for non-owner occupied residences. In addition to that, maybe frequency of stay or number of rental days allowed annually. And then obviously the main, or one of the main comments or issues that's come up with the public is the 3 zones in question that contend that there should be no rentals in those zones. So with that, I'd like to make one motion which would address the first 2 items, which is length of stay and then the number of rentals annually. It's been kind of tossed around a little bit. I know Councilor Steinhilber presented 1 or 2 meetings ago, I think now, maybe 3. But this is specifically for non-owner occupied rentals. What I would propose is that we have a 2-night minimum stay, and concurrent with that, we present kind of hand in hand with that a maximum of 50 leases or 50 contracts on an annual basis. So a minimum of 2-night stay with a maximum of 50 rental contracts on an annual basis. That would be my motion.
For a second. Anybody want to discuss it? I need a second to discuss. Are you seconding it, Council?
We need the second to get into discussion, correct?
Correct.
So I'll second it so we can have discussion on it.
Okay.
The rationale that I'm looking at this is obvious in many ways, that it will allow the folks in town who depend on these rentals to really provide and pay for the properties that they're trying to maintain. Secondly, by limiting the total allowable rental periods, it will more closely coincide with our season of rental. And the hopes being that it would detract from corporations coming in, purchasing these properties, which has been the long contended argument, in order to make them into profit centers. In order to have the ability to afford a house on Cape Cod currently, as a second home, I don't think we're in a position to try to deter people from doing that. And I've always advocated that your home is an asset and you should be allowed to treat it as such. Although I will tell you from experience that it's very difficult to operate a second home unless you are fortunate enough to have some legacy wealth or something of that fashion. So my thoughts were to allow for 2-night minimum stays, which will allow those weekend rentals. Again, this is up for discussion, obviously, and then limit the number of rentals annually, which will prevent corporations from coming in, which is the presumed thought, to purchase properties and turn them into mini hotels.
Councilor Mary, this is non-owner occupied.
That is correct. This specifically addresses non-owner occupied.
And we do not have anything in the ordinance as such, so I think you would probably have to include an I under section 190-3. I think you would have to add I, but perhaps Attorney Nober can just clarify that, if that's where you would place something like this.
Could you tell me again what the motion is, please? What the
Motion is to establish a minimum night stay of 2 nights, minimum stay for non-owner occupied vacation rentals or STRs.
With a maximum
With a maximum of 50 agreements, leases, whatever the legal terminology that you would prefer, on an annual basis.
Take a break for
in the
just
calendar,
so that I could actually consult with a couple of the counselors.
You're breaking up, I'm sorry.
Could we take a break for a moment? Just a 2-minute break?
okay. Sarah, are you okay?
Yep, that's fine.
Okay, we'll recess for 2 minutes.
all set. Go ahead.
Thank you. Counselor Neary.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chairman. Council has advised me that due to my personal circumstances that I should withdraw that motion.
And who seconded it? Counselor President, do you withdraw your second?
This is just to
Withdrawing his motion.
Okay, I'll accept withdrawing the motion.
Okay. Counselor Bogan.
I'm going to try this a little differently because I don't want to waste any time here. I do have a number of amendments. I just think they're a little bit premature, given that, as I think Councilor Clark alluded early, we don't have a representative of the 4th precinct, and I think they should have a voice here. So I would respectfully move that we table this until the 4th precinct has a representative who can engage in the discussion of any amendment.
I second that.
Okay. Counselor Schnapp.
Oh, thank you, but I'd like to go a little bit farther, and I don't know the parliamentary procedure here, but I would like to move to withdraw this item for consideration.
Well, there's already a motion on the table to wait, but Counselor Bogan, would you withdraw your motion?
I would do so, Madam Vice President.
Okay, and Council President, would you withdraw your second?
Will, yes, thank you.
Okay, Counselor Schnapp, would you restate your motion, please?
I would like to withdraw item 2020-192 from consideration by the council.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I'm going to ask for a vote, please. Madam Clerk.
Counselors, Dagwan,
Yes.
Rap Grissetti,
Yes.
Hebert,
Yes.
Levesque,
Yes.
Neary,
Sure.
Schnapp,
Yes.
Shaughnessy,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Steinhilber,
No.
Bogan,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Cullum.
No.
2 noes, it passes.
Thank you very much. I will hand the gavel back to you, Mr. President.
I thank you very much. I take back the gavel. Thank you, Madam Vice President, for your comment. Okay, so councilors, we will now go to the next item on the agenda. And again, I would ask Councilor Schnapp to please read into the orders of the day, item number 2020-193, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is an item of old business requiring a public hearing and roll call vote of 2/3. Item number 2020-193, order amending Chapter 240 zoning, Article 2, Section 7, adding certain provisions pertaining to short-term rentals.
Second.
We have a first. Do we have a second?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, who seconded it, please?
I did.
Oh, thank you, Madam Vice President.
I did.
Okay, thank you. So we have council response comment. Is that Councilor Levesque?
I move to withdraw the zoning amendment 193.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Councilor Cullum, please.
I feel the need to say that I think this is an absolute absence of leadership on an issue that was brought to us by the people. I just want to put it on the record that I'm 100% opposed to tabling this idea, to tabling all this work, tabling staff's dedication to answering our questions, to tabling the concerns of the public. I am 100% opposed to it. And frankly, I'm embarrassed that this is where we are on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Cullum. Councilor Levesque.
Just in response to that, I completely understand Council Cullum's distress really over the situation. But unfortunately, now we're at a situation where we have no teeth into what, and this goes back to what I said 2 meetings ago. And I was ready today with amendment to this general ordinance. But I understand that, without that general ordinance, this is not going to get passed. So, and that's not because I counted the votes or anything like that.
Last one and one. This entire package, it's an
I understand.
embarrassment.
And honestly, Councilor Cullum, I agree with you. But at the same time, I think we just need to move forward. And in a way, we're moving backwards. So, but at the same time, it's just time to move on. Let the health department continue to do what they've been currently doing. Hopefully, working with the building department, also working with. Again, I don't disagree with you. I just, unfortunately, this is where we are. This is the reality of where we are. And again, going back to I can't remember whose point it was. I remember and recalling, I wrote down, I looked at past, there were maps that were presented to us. There was presentations presented to us by planning, by Assistant Town Manager Andy Clyburn, 3 times. 3 times the same information was given to us. And there's councils that said, I don't really think we have enough information. There wasn't any more information to give. So if we can't come to this, if we don't have the 9 votes that it takes to pass this, we can't pass the general ordinance. We're not going to pass this, in my opinion. I don't have those facts.
I'm just incredibly frustrated.
Yeah. And I understand that. So when I don't want to make pinpoint, I don't want to make this a personal conversation between the 2 of us, but I just want to recognize that. I want to recognize as well the hard work. It takes a lot of guts, I think, for Councilor Schnepp to take and withdraw her own ordinance that she led, that she put the hours into, that she took comments for, personal emails for, public comment about, that was personal, different things that were happening. And again, took the shot and to lead. And unfortunately, that hasn't come to fruition. And she had to withdraw her own thing. I mean, how does that hurt? So again, I just wanted to reduce the pain and make that so that, and we can move on. So again, I do hope, my hope is the other side, is that, and you know what? Councilor Bogan's points, you know what? Councilor Bogan has done his homework. And Councilor Bogan has led in a lot of ways. I just want to give credit where credit's due. And so this is my rationale that, you know what? And if someone doesn't necessarily agree with what Councilor Bogan or somebody else has to say, no problem. But you know what? And to his credit, he has met. I've talked to him myself, one-on-one. And so, again, this is, but this is the reality of where we are, which is, again, unfortunate. So we move on and we try to rally the troops again. And again, the hope is that when we come together again, that we will be able to put something together. I am in favor of having the people who did work so hard on this, that continue to work, be able to be a voice in the process. And I actually took Councilor Biedenbender's position on the zoning and regulatory, so I hope to be part of that process as well. Thank you very much.
So I'm just going to address that. I'm not getting involved in the discussion here because my job was to allow the councilors to discuss. Some councilors chose to not discuss. Some councilors just kind of sat back and didn't participate a whole lot. People came tonight. I gave up the gavel because I've got an amendment. I'm not getting an opportunity to put my amendment in. I thought that Councilor Neary's comment was very good. So I was going to come up a different way. If he was just being asked to step down because of some conflict of interest that I'm not aware of, but so I didn't get a chance to present that. I'm not the one that introduced the withdrawal. The leadership allowed the councilors to express themselves to the maximum amount. So look at yourself in the mirror before you criticize the leadership. I take offense if you want to look at where the action is. I'm not the one who decided whether we stopped the meeting and kept the meeting going or anything else like that. I'm not a bully. I'm not running the show. I directed us to try to keep us civil. But we seem to have lost our ability to be civil, so this is where we find ourselves. But I'm not the one who introduced the withdrawal. A councilor did. That's my job, is to allow that to happen when a councilor wants to make a decision. So I know that other councilors have worked very hard on this, very hard, without end. So to act like we don't appreciate our own work, I don't know what else to say. But from the get-go, we have had reservations. And so if we all felt that this was the best thing to do and the best thing we could do, we would have accomplished this 3 months ago. But there was a feeling that we were going to make this decision on our own and with staff. We've listened to the public, but so take it for what it's worth. Thank you. All right, so what do we have on the table here? Councilor Bogan, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I want to thank Councilor Levesque for your kind words. I'm motivated, as I always say, by nothing other than to do what I think is in the best interest of the citizens of the town of Barnstable. Secondly, I take offense at the suggestion that it's a failure of leadership. I commend the president. Frankly, I think there have been flaws in the process. I do not attribute them to leadership. I do commend and appreciate and respect the work that Councilor Schnepp has done. I don't question her integrity or her motives. Unfortunately, not everyone who's been involved in the process has clean hands, and that's why we are where we are.
Did I just hear clean hands?
Yes, I was not referring to you.
But is there somebody among us that doesn't have clean hands?
That would be my position, correct?
Is it appropriate to name who might not have clean hands?
Point of order, President.
I would prefer not to do that.
We have a motion to withdraw the item.
We have a motion to withdraw the item. It has been seconded. Any further discussion on this withdrawal? Pro, con? I'm not seeing any further discussion. Not seeing any further discussion. This is a roll call to withdraw item 2020-193.
Councilors, Rep. Grissetti.
Yes.
Hebert.
Yes.
Levesque.
Yes.
Neary.
Yes.
Schnepp.
Yes.
Shaughnessy.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Steinhilber.
Yes.
Bogan.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Cullum.
No.
Dagwan.
Yes.
It passes 11 yes.
Thank you very much, councilors. I would now ask Madam Vice President if you would kindly read into the orders. I know, did I assign item 20? Yes, item 2021-028. I believe I asked Councilor Shaughnessy to read this into the order of the day.
Thank you, President Hebert. This is old business, public hearing, roll call majority, item number 2021-028. Appropriation and transfer order in the amount of $68,760 for the Inspectional Services Department fiscal year 2021 operating expense budget to fund a contract for the comprehensive monitoring of short-term rental properties.
Thank you, Councilor Shaughnessy. I believe that we have. There you are. Thank you, Commissioner Florence. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, council members. I believe that this matter is irrelevant at this point.
I would agree.
I would second that.
I think
Motion to withdraw this item?
if this matter be withdrawn, I think the town manager needs to do that because appropriations come from the manager. Appropriation requests come from the town manager.
The town manager, Mark L's request to withdraw this item.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Did Mr. Clyburn have I think he was trying to get our attention.
Okay, I'm sorry. Assistant Town Manager, Mr. Clyburn, please.
Good evening, Mr. President, town councilors. I think Commissioner Florence is correct. The events of tonight probably warrant a withdrawal, but I would just like to make sure and clarify with legal that we can still bring this forward at a future town council meeting. I think that where we're going with this has merit, regardless if the previous two items were withdrawn. I think a lot of the debate about data could be clarified if we move forward with this item. And obviously we need to modify it a bit since we don't have a general ordinance or a zoning item affirmatively voted. But I just want to clarify and put on record that I think we will be bringing something very similar to this forward, and that it will help inform the council if and when it does bring this matter forward again.
And if I could just respond, we could bring this back. We would just re-advertise and just start over, but there's nothing stopping the town from doing that, stopping the.
Commissioner Florence, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. And maybe I was a little quick. I think the benefit to doing that is we could apply this to our existing rental program, and it would provide valuable data with respect to complaints, with respect to providing a hotline for people to call, and also registration for our existing rental program. So maybe I was a little quick in saying it's irrelevant, but I think that there's a lot of value in what we're proposing.
Councilor Dagwan, please.
I want to thank the assistant town manager and Brian for considering this. This has been a concern of mine to have a little bit more information about what's currently going on with short-term rentals. I think it would be a big benefit to this council or future council. If these items come back up again, we'll have a lot more information to work with. And so I just want to commend you for considering keeping some parts of this item for future reference. Thank you.
Town Manager Mark Ellis, please.
I'm sorry, President Hebert, I think Councilor Starr had his hand up before me, sir.
Oh, thank you, sir. I would ask Brian, Mr. Florence, if he could explain what a little bit more of the specifics of what would be monitored here. Are you looking at like Airbnb advertisements? You're making a registration list of people who have short-term rentals?
Thank you, Councilor Starr. I'd be happy to do that. I'd be happy to do that for you. So the program that we were looking at, and we've been looking at this for since the very early days in the short-term rental process. many of the communities around the country use this type of process or these types of services. They're short-term rental monitoring services. They do a lot of things. They monitor the rental activity. They provide compliance monitoring. In other words, they look to see who is who's not signing up and registering as they're supposed to. They monitor over 50 sites, 50 of these Airbnb and other type of websites to see if somebody has complied with the rental registration compliance requirements. They provide a 24/7 hotline for complaints that come in. As I said earlier, they provide a permitting and registration program, that's a process that's allowed to, you can use it either mobile or computer related. You can call in. It's very versatile. And they do address identification for all of the short-term rentals. The way they charge is the full cost of it would be covered under the registration fee that the $90 registration fee that we proposed. And it's a tool that would be used along with the existing in-house resources. So you've heard that we already have rules in place for health regulations. We already have rules in place for zoning and other regulations in town, such as the motor vehicle, unregistered motor vehicles and those types of things. This service would be in harmony with that. So, it's a good service. It would, as a standalone short-term rental program, it would provide us with a lot of data that would help us to be able to understand what's going on out and keep our finger on the pulse of things while we were registering these properties, and also while you folks are considering what to do with the program.
I have one more question. Mr. Neary suggested that we put a limit of 50 rentals per year. Is that something that program would track, the number of actual registration renters?
They do.
They do?
They can do all of that, yeah.
May I ask you, Commissioner, are all STRs going to still pay a fee to register if we don't have an ordinance?
Yes, sir. They do now.
They do?
Yeah, they do now.
Thank you.
Town Manager Mark Ellis? Just a point of clarification. I still ask to withdraw this item, notwithstanding the statements of Assistant Town Manager and Building Commissioner. They are accurate, but at this point, we just need to step back, understand the scope of what we're going to accomplish with this request, discuss it with our finance director as we do all items of a financial nature, and then bring this back forward at the appropriate time. So that's the intent of this, to follow this withdrawal. Thank you.
Councilor Bogan, please.
If I may, if I understand where I think Assistant Town Manager Clyburn was going, I think it's just a matter of rewriting the item so that it doesn't refer to the withdrawn ordinance. So I expect that it will be back in very short order so that we can achieve the benefits of at least what this is designed to accomplish.
I would certainly hope so, sir. Absolutely.
Thank you, Councilor, and thank you, Assistant Town Manager. May I ask, this was scheduled for a public hearing. Is that now mute, or is there, should we check if there's any public hearing?
I don't think there's any reason to have a public hearing if you're withdrawing the item.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Any other councilors comment? Councilor Neary, please.
Just as a point of information, thank you, Manager Ellis, for bringing that up, because the ordinance actually, again, would pay for this. I assume it's a software type of a product. It may still have inherent value going forward if we're not going to do anything in terms of giving us data. I'm sure it is probably not as expensive as another full-time employee. But again, we're spending money with no offset, additional revenue. Thank you again for clarifying that. Appreciate all the work.
Thank you, Councilor Neary. Assistant Town Manager Clyburn, please.
Yeah, if I just might respond to Councilor Neary, I appreciate that, sir. But all of these rentals are currently required to register with the town at a cost of $90. So it absolutely would be covered. The fact of the matter is only about half of these rentals are currently registering with the town. We've been in a bit of limbo going and enforcing, which now that these ordinances are definitively not going to be moving, we will be moving forward with getting them on the roll, so to speak.
Thank you.
That's important. As a follow-up, thank you. That's very important. And I think continually try to move in the direction of trying to get all of these properties above board. I mean, there are more than we're currently recording. There are more that are going on in town. Again, the elephant in the room. We'll live to fight another day on that issue. Thanks again for all the effort.
Thank you, Councilor. So right now we have a motion, if you will, from the town manager to withdraw item number 2021-028.
I don't believe it's a motion, sir.
No, and you just wrong. That's not.
I think the matter is withdrawn.
Okay. And we'll leave it at your pleasure, town manager. If you want to resubmit at any point, we certainly entertain that.
Thank you. We'll take it under advisement and bring it back at the appropriate time.
Thank you. Thank you for your good work on this. Thank you, councilors. I would now ask that Councilor Levesque would please read into the orders of the day, item number 2021-033, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is old business may be acted upon. Roll call majority vote. Item number 2021-033. This is appointments to a board, committee, or commission. Are we resolved that the town council appoint the following individuals to a multi-member board, committee, or commission? Fantastic youth commissioners, Michaela Stample, in care of the Hyannis Youth and Community Center, a regular member to term expiring 6/2021, and Isabella, also known as Izzy Rudy, in care of the Hyannis Youth and Community Center, a regular member to a term expiring 6/2021.
We have a first and we have a second. Any conversation? Councilor Bogan, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I can say that I have now served on this appointments committee for almost a year now, and consideration of these two young individuals was among the most impressive and certainly the most enjoyable. Not intended to be a slight on those that came before, but it was an absolute delight.
Thank you, Councilor Bogan, for that comment.
Thank you.
Any other councilors? Seeing none, I would ask that we take a vote, Madam Clerk, on item number 2021-033 to approve these appointments.
Councilors Hebert,
Yes.
Levesque,
Yes.
Neary,
Yes.
Knapp,
Yes.
Shaughnessy,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Steinhilber,
Yes.
Bogan,
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Cullum,
Yes.
Dagwan,
Yes.
Rapcorsetti.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Thank you very much. Thank you, councilors. Thank you, Madam Clerk. I would now ask Councilor Levesque, would you please read into the record of the day item number 2021-034, please.
Yes, this is also old business may be acted upon. Roll call majority vote. This is item number 2021-034, reappointments to a board, committee, or commissions. Town council has resolved that we reappoint the following individual to a multi-member board, committee, or commission for the Mid-Cape Cultural Council. This is Lynn Belfiore as a regular member to a term expiring September 13th, 2023.
We have a first and a second. Any comments by councilors? Being none, I will ask Madam Clerk to please, this is a vote to approve item number 2021-034, please.
You're muted, Ann. You're excused.
Levesque,
Yes.
Neary,
Yes.
Schnapp,
Yes.
Shaughnessy,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Steinhilber,
Yes.
Bogan,
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Cullum,
Yes.
Jaguan.
Yes.
Rapcrissetti.
Yes.
Hebert.
Yes.
That's unanimous.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I would now ask, thank you, councilors. I would now ask Councilor Starr to please read into the orders of the day, item number 2021-035. You're muted, Councilor Starr, you're muted.
I have to find it and then turn it. This is new business, 2021-035, authorization for submission to the Federal Communications Commission, the town's assent to comments submitted by the city of Boston. May be acted upon with a roll call majority.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is a resolve. Councilor Bogan.
Mr. President, I will recuse myself from this matter.
Thank you very much. Okay. Is some town manager else, would you like to speak on this resolve? Town manager? Town manager, would you like to speak on this resolve?
Yeah, sorry, I apologize. Yes, I would. And let me go to an item within my town manager communication, and I'll just read it, and I won't read it when we get to it, because it does summarize why we brought this forward. You know, on October 26th, the U.S. District Court issued an order and judgment in the T-Mobile matter, ordering the town to issue to T-Mobile all permits and permits necessary to conclude the installation and operation of the personal wireless facilities located at the South Congregational Church in Centerville, and to execute the regulatory agreement that was attached to the order by November 5th. And I have executed the regulatory agreement, and the building commissioner has issued the required permit. Although I know many in the community were urging us to appeal this decision, the town attorney has advised me that there was no legal basis for an appeal, and we would not be able to introduce in the appeal any new experts or new facts. Pursuing an appeal in these circumstances would not be an appropriate use of town resources, as there would be no real likelihood of success. Having said that, we continue to look at what steps the town may take to maximize local control consistent with federal law, including updating the town's ordinances and procedures with respect to telecom permitting. We also will be bringing forward tonight a resolve requesting that the town council authorization to file with the Federal Communications Commission the town's assent to comments filed in June by the city of Boston regarding radio frequency admission standards, essentially signing on to the city's request that the FCC re-examine those standards. What I'm saying here is that we proceeded through a court case that we knew would most likely end where it did. Concurrent with that, we've been looking at the options to bring forward to our community to better manage and protect public health and safety in our community relevant to this issue. This resolve is one of those items that we see that we should go forward with. Basically asking the FCC, which was already asked by the city of Boston, to go back and look at their regulations relevant to this type of technology and update it. And from that update, be able to better regulate public health and safety. There are also many other efforts that we are engaged in to provide support to our community in this area, and I will bring those forward to our council where appropriate and share them with the community when appropriate. I wanted everybody to know that, and therefore, that's why this resolve is before you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Town Manager Ellison. It's certainly a wonderful work, a great project, and you're working for the public health of all of our people in regards to this issue, and I thank you very, very much. Councilors, any other questions to address to Town Manager? Any comments that you might want to make? Okay, seeing none, I would ask Madam Clerk to please take a vote to approve our resolve on item number 2021-035, please.
Councilors Neary,
Yes.
Schnapp,
Yes.
Shaughnessy,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Steinhilber, Clark.
Yeah.
Cullum,
Yes.
Dagwan,
Yes.
Rapgrassetti,
Yes.
Hebert,
Yes.
Levesque,
Yes.
unanimous.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Appreciate that. We will now have, the Town Manager will now give his report, and I thank you, Town Manager, for cooperating with the issue of time. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. And thank you for this opportunity to provide an update. Mark Ellis, Town Manager. I'll begin by asking our Town Clerk to give a post-election comment and update. And I just want to say, great job, Ann. And we very much appreciate all the work you and your staff and the many volunteers provided during this election. So well done.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was unprecedented. It really was. I will tell you that we've had the highest turnout ever that I can find going back. We really did do a phenomenal amount of work, and it really came to fruition to see so many people actually exercise their right to vote, which makes me very happy. This in 2016, when the law came in that they were going to now allow early voting for the state, just the state elections, and that was 2016. So we did it in 2016 and 2018. When they have a presidential or general election, they also built in an audit. So they take the over 13,000 precincts within the state of Massachusetts, and they put us all into basically what looks like a bingo barrel. And they pull out of that precincts. And I had the misfortune to be one of the first ones to be picked back in 2016 for an audit, but we came through flying colors, which I was very happy for. But this year I missed it, thankfully, but my friend in Mashpee, the Mashpee town clerk has already hit me up to help her out. So I'll be doing that Monday afternoon because she did get chosen. The good news is we had a great turnout. and I had a phenomenal amount of people helping. I can't even, there's no way to tell you the names. I couldn't even begin. It could not have happened without them. But the other piece of this that you should know is that I spent a lot of money. So $9,800 was spent just on stamps alone. I will have better figures for you as to how many people actually early voted. Unfortunately, they're lumped together with those who voted in person. So I will have all those numbers, though. I'm almost there. And I spent on salaries, overtime, and for all those people all those poll workers, over $64,000 for the September and November elections. So I apologize for that, but we got it done, and we got it done right.
It's the cost of democracy. Thank you very much. Super. Now, volunteers were not paid, is that correct?
Yes, there were some volunteers, but there were a lot of poll workers that were paid because they spent hours and hours and hours here helping.
Right, but there were a lot of volunteers from the town.
Yes.
And even town staff and all who helped.
Yes.
Set some of the costs, made it more simplified. So thank you. Well done. Thank you to all the volunteers. Okay, so.
Okay, so I'll continue with my town manager report. Okay, thank you. Mark Ells, town manager. As a reminder, the town of Barnstable continues to follow the orders and directives of our governor. In recent weeks, we have observed an increase in the average number of positive cases in Barnstable, requiring continued attention of our residents to following proper safety protocols regarding personal hygiene, physical distancing, wearing a face mask, and in general, taking personal responsibility regarding this matter. We are still in phase 3, step 2 of the governor's 4-phase recovery plan in Barnstable and plan to maintain that status, but please keep an eye on whether Barnstable and other towns on Cape Cod go from yellow to red tomorrow. We will see what that map shows. That could set us back. As a reminder, the governor continues to frequently update his orders and directives. Therefore, I encourage everyone to go to the mass.gov COVID website or the Town of Barnstable website and read these orders and directives. You're going to find information on the state website and our website about upcoming holidays, indoor sports activities, business activities. The Baker-Polito administration announced target measures to curb the rising COVID cases and hospitalizations across our Commonwealth. I point out to you the stay-at-home advisory, orders requiring early closing of certain businesses, license renewal requirements, and a revised order regarding face coverings in public. So specifically, please look at those. Go to their website, read them. They have changed this week. Pending what happens tomorrow or the subsequent Friday, or beyond, there could be further changes. We do anticipate. Thank you for your continued adherence to these requirements. We continue to monitor the FY 2021 revenue and expense and develop revenue projections for FY 22. We continue to maintain strict financial controls in our effort to respond appropriately as we progress through the FY 21 and prepare a proposed capital and operating budget for FY 22. We await the state of Massachusetts to pass an FY 2021 budget, which establishes a baseline for state aid, and the state aid is used in establishing the town's FY 22 operating budget. We are recommending postponement of the joint town council school committee meeting, where our finance director provides a fiscal overview in our efforts to prepare a coordinated budget for FY 2022. We will come forward with a recommendation on when to reschedule that, and hopefully it'll coincide with our state adopting a budget. And at the September 17th, 2020 Town Council meeting, with the reviewed general fiscal policy, and therefore we are proceeding with those assumptions from that meeting with our FY 22 budget development. So all of those general fiscal policies we spoke with the council about, and I had provided a memo summarizing those with recommendations. We are incorporating those assumptions into the development of the FY 22 budget. We are utilizing the existing town council strategic plan as a basis for budget development pending any significant changes that may have resulted for the town council's recent strategic planning session. So if any major changes come out, we're going to need to know those by December, because we will be well into the budget process for FY 22 by then. We have a scheduled, otherwise we're going to use the existing strategic plan. We have a scheduled calendar year rate hearing on November 17th via Zoom for any proposed rate changes for calendar year 2021. And you can see all of this information on the town's website. The town of Barnstable appointed the town manager as its representative on the Cape and Islands Water Protection Fund Board. The full board met on October 7th and adopted regulations for distribution of these funds. I anticipate a discussion of the full board regarding the principal subsidy levels for state revolving fund eligible projects in the near future. I will say to you that for 2020, Barnstable has several SRF eligible projects, and there is the opportunity as well, once the board does that first round of review relevant to the 2020 SRF eligible project. Barnstable is one of the named communities in the legislation to potentially receive reimbursement for prior wastewater projects. And then I expect that moving forward, we will be looking at the 2021, they call it the IUP, the Intended Use Plan, which are the listed SRF eligible projects. So as a board, we are very active. We did come to a unanimous vote to move forward with the regulations as proposed, and that those regulations are specific to how we would apply a principal subsidy to these eligible projects. So hopefully that will be a positive thing for all communities on Cape Cod as we move forward with the collective effort to address the nutrient loading and the other wastewater related concerns we have here on Cape Cod, and specifically here in Barnstable. All of this can be viewed on the Cape Cod Commission's website, and I provide that link. You dig down into the website and you can find everything from minutes of the meetings, the new regulations, the agendas, etc. So if you have any problem finding that, feel comfortable reaching out to me and I will assist you finding. The fiscal year 2021 proposed property values are available for review while they are pending preliminary certification from the Bureau of Local Assessment of the Department of Revenue. They can be found on a link at the Town of Barnstable website. A public disclosure period runs from November 2nd. Initially, it was through November 6th, but now it's been extended through November 13th, 2020. During this time, property owners are invited to view their proposed new property values and, if necessary, to make inquiries regarding the values with the assessor's office. I provide their telephone number, 508-862-4022. After this review period, owners will still have the opportunity to file for an abatement if they feel the proposed value is incorrect after the third quarter tax bills are mailed in late December. That deadline to file will be February 1st, 2021. And I provide you a link here so that you can look at this revaluation information. And Mark Milne stands ready if you have more in-depth questions following my town manager's update regarding this matter. And finally, on a lighter note, our staff reports that the 2020 artist season was one of the most challenging but also rewarding seasons to date. Our arts and culture program was one of the few opportunities for the creative community to participate in this season, as many festivals, fairs, and other selling opportunities were canceled due to COVID-19. The town provided a safe and inviting environment for the artists and the visitors to the area. The Artist Shanty program provides affordable rental space for Cape Cod artists and artisans to work and to sell at these seaside studios. This incubator program was designed for the creative community to experience the setting and the program like no other. This year in particular, participants in the 2020 Artist Shanties programs met the challenges of COVID-19 rules and regulations with open minds and creativity. They adapted to the protocols and discovered more about themselves and their ability to overcome obstacles, including not only having visitors inside the shanties wearing masks and sanitizing their wares. The artists had to reconfigure their displays to attract the visitors to the doorstep. Visitors were delighted to meet the local artists, be outside, and seemed ready and willing to spend dollars for shopping and after dining in the area. So job well done. I mean, this is one of those examples that I referred to earlier. Our staff, the easy answer could have been COVID-19, let's stop what we're doing and not provide these services and programs, because that's what much of our country did. We did not choose to do that in Barnstable. Barnstable stayed open. Barnstable continued to provide programs and services to its residents, to its visitors, continued to work with the businesses of Barnstable so that they could try to remain open and remain financially viable during this extremely difficult time. And I just had to report back to you on a program well done through our planning department. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Town Manager. Mark, I would just like to make a couple of questions. One, comments. We have gotten from the Consensus Institute, the draft came through of all the changes, additions and deletions on our strategic plan. It was reviewed by leadership. It was approved. We're waiting the final presentation, and it will be taken up for approval by the council at our next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. The other question I had was specifically on the taxes, 4% increase, evaluation, I'm sorry, evaluation of our residences, a 4% increase, but the 20% in the business, are we stuck to that, or is that something that the town has some say on that from that presentation? Can we make adjustments on that? Yes or no? Thank you.
Director Milne's here, and I'll allow him to answer that question.
Thank you.
Good evening, councilors, and thank you for that question, Mr. President. Yeah, the reason for the public disclosure period is to receive comments from the public, any residential property taxpayers as well as commercial taxpayers if they have questions on those values. And in those discussions with the taxpayers, if they point out that there may be some significant errors in the way the assessment was calculated, it creates a time period for us to correct any significant errors prior to issuing the final tax. So that's the purpose behind the public disclosure period. If we aren't able to provide that correction in a timely manner, there's always the abatement process available to the taxpayer. So we won't be missing an opportunity here to file for an abatement. This just provides an extra layer of review. We are in a reevaluation year. Once every 5 years, we must do a comprehensive reevaluation of all town property. It used to be once every 3 years, but that was extended to once every 5 years. several years ago when the Municipal Modernization Act was passed. And we hired Vision Government Solutions, an outside contractor, to assist with this comprehensive reevaluation. They perform these types of services throughout New England, or actually throughout the country. And it is important to note that it's based on calendar year 2019 sales data. So COVID-19 will not impact property values for commercial properties, the fiscal year 21 tax. However, it should have some impact on the fiscal year 22 tax values. We will be analyzing data in fiscal year that we collect during fiscal year 21 for the fiscal year 22 property valuations. But it's important to note that the values that are being used for the 21 tax bills are based on calendar year 2019 sales data. We're always, every community in the Commonwealth is always behind, and that's the way mass appraisal works. It's not current market value. You're probably going to see a pretty sizable or more significant increase in residential property next year with what's happening in the residential market currently during calendar year 2020. So again, yeah, COVID-19, it's a very, it doesn't coincide well with the property revaluation because it's impacting businesses today. However, these values are based on 2019 data that we.
Thank you very much for that info. Any other councilors' questions of the town manager? We're going to go with Councilor Shaughnessy, please.
I have a question. My question is, so when I go to look at my proposed valuation, information suppressed due to request of taxpayer, how would I access my own?
Contact the assessing office. I could talk to you offline as to why that was done. There was issues that were happening across the country a few months ago, and that was done for basically some security issues. And so contact our office and we can review that with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Bogan, please.
Yeah, very quickly. Mark, I just wanted to make sure I was clear. You said that the deadline to question your assessment has been extended from November 6th to the 13th?
Actually, the deadline, the public hearing to have a meeting with the Vision Appraisal Company and to discuss the value and possibly make changes to it ends on Monday. But we're going to provide the public disclosure for the values till next Friday. So people will have access to the information to see what it looks like. However, the actual hearing ends on Monday. The time period for the hearing ends on Monday. That was not extended. We did not get that extension from the Bureau of Local Assessment. All we got was an extension to continue to provide that public disclosure information, but not for the hearing.
So just so that I'm clear, so the public disclosure period was extended from November 6th until Monday, but you gotta help me.
Public disclosure was extended to the 13th.
Okay.
Public disclosure was extended to the 13th. Hearings were extended to hearings stop on Monday.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, Madam Vice President, thank you.
Mark, I know, well, I hope that O'Neill, the assessor, will be at our next meeting when we talk about the residential tax incentive, but talk about assessing property. And I know I've said this before, I think it would behoove the assessor to consider and, the manager to list on those property pages whether or not they live on a private road or a public road. I think that should be information on everybody's assessment. Even though our map says draft map as far as public and private roads, I think it should be closed to the assessment. Renew my request And
Yeah, yes, thank you for that comment. We are actually actively looking at updating the property lookup function on the town's webpage. It won't be in the assessor's database. We're looking at that property lookup function that you see on our homepage to include whether or not you're on a private road, public way, whether you're on public sewer, private septic system, and potentially whether or not your property is going to be included in the comprehensive wastewater management plan and which phase. So we're looking at how we can incorporate all three of those features in that property lookup function to make it easily accessible and understandable for our residents.
great.
Councilor Clark, please. Councilor Clark, did you want to say something?
No, thank you. I was saying that aboard.
Oh, thumbs up. Okay, good. And Councilor Levesque, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mark, for your presentation. I was excited just to hear that the artist shanties were a success. And again, not only for the artists being able to sell their wares and be artists, but for those like myself even that have an opportunity to witness the arts in taking place. And there was a big encouragement because the artist community is really one of the most devastated by this COVID crisis, musicians included. My question though is, and I see that senior planner Kate Maldonado, she's been with us all night. I wasn't just, and again, not to put her or anybody on the spot, but is there any movement at all with any block grant funding coming forward to help businesses as we move forward into the off season, especially either through the CARES Act or any other opportunities moving forward?
Elizabeth
And if
Jenkins.
there isn't, that's fine too.
Elizabeth Jenkins has joined us, Councilor.
Oh.
I'll hand off to Elizabeth.
Excellent, thank you.
You're welcome. Good evening, Councilors. Elizabeth Jenkins, Director of Planning and Development. Pleased to be joined tonight by our new senior planner, Kate Maldonado. Don't want to put her on the spot. We have been working to get several programs up and running for businesses. We released last week a second round of funding that was made available to us as a gateway city through our Transformative Development Initiative partnership with Mass Development. So that's the second round of small business grants that we put out. Great news for the area and for the partnership. The geographic eligibility of businesses is fairly limited. Again, really looking at businesses in the downtown area. Yeah, we are working hard at using the funding we got through the Coronavirus Relief Act and actually partnering with some of our partners that we established relationships with in the TDI process, both Coastal Community Capital and the group Love Live Local, who started an effort called the Barnstable Resilience Fund to be able to provide additional small business assistance. So we are working hard on program development for those right now, and look forward to hopefully announcing those within a month's time.
Excellent. Thank you, Elizabeth, and welcome, Kate.
Welcome, Kate. Good, thank you. Thank you. Just a comment, Madam Vice President just reminded me about Veterans Day is coming up. I believe that Lynn Poyant and staff are going to do what they did on similar events. There's going to be an online for veterans. They're going to have some speakers, I believe, on the online, an entire program. They've done outstanding in covering all the memorials and all the holidays, especially for our veterans. Super job. So I believe that that's in the works. We're not going to have the traditional parade because of COVID now March. So, but it will be covered by the town. I'm quite sure there's a program. I think town manager would agree to that taking place.
Yes.
Thank you. Great. Seeing no Any other business for the good of the council and good of the town? I would ask for a motion that we would adjourn. Our next meeting would be November 19th. See you all then. Motion to adjourn.
So vote.
Second.
We have a first and second. Madam Clerk, give the vote. Adjourn.
Thank you. Counselors, Knapp,
Yes.
Shaughnessy,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Steinhilber,
Yes.
Bogan. Sorry, I didn't hear you, David.
I apologize. Yes.
Thank you. Clark,
Yes.
Cullum,
Yes.
Dagwan,
Yes.
Rapcorsetti,
Yes.
Hebert,
Yes.
Levesque,
Yes.
Neary. Paul,
Yes, sorry, yes.
thank you. That would be unanimous.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Good evening to everybody. Thank you so much for your participation. Have a wonderful, safe evening.
Have a good night, all.
Good night.
Say, Paul.